Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the Warframe Nezha Prime. We have the top commenter and the first commenter of the last video. It was the same person. It is Guess My Name. And we have our recent supporters of Alfofo, Toxic Sneeze, and Johnny. Thank you so much for your support. And of course, we're doing Nezha Prime today. Nezha Prime was suggested for us to do by commenter DieBurkle6529. And that's why we're doing them today. Let's go ahead and go down into the arsenal here. Now, before we go over Nezha and Nezha's mods, I want to go over Nezha's abilities for anyone that's not fully aware of them. And to do that, I have Other Salt out in the field right now. We're going to go ahead and switch to Other Salt to show the abilities off. Hey guys, Other Salt here. I'm going to be going over Nezha's abilities for you. Before we start, I just want to say to Salt out there, great job on the video choice today. You are so friggin' smart. Probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life. Great job, Salt. Great job. Okay, let's continue on with the abilities here. So Nezha's passive first is going to be that Nezha can slide further and faster than other Warframes. Kind of cool, helps with movement. Nezha's 1 is going to be an ability called Firewalker, a buff that increases movement speed, leaves behind a trail of fire, doing heat damage and proccing heat status. Also, while Nezha or allies are standing in the flames, they are cleansed and immune to negative status effects. And the fire trail only happens when Nezha is on ground or bullet jumping. So let's say I have Firewalker on right here. If I just fall, it's not going to continue. Well, it'll continue down here, but there won't be like a trail of flames where I fell. Only if I'm bullet jumping while I'm in the air. So while Firewalker's on, it's going to leave that little fire trail behind me. I can run through enemies. They're going to take some heat procs, some heat damage. Pretty cool. Pretty cool passive damage that just happens, as well as movement speed. Okay, Nezha's 2, Blazing Chakram. You're going to throw your Chakram at an enemy. It will ricochet off enemies and objects, hitting up to 6 enemies before returning. Targets receive heat damage, a guaranteed heat proc, damage vulnerability, and increased chance to drop health orbs and energy orbs on death. You can also hold to cast the 2, causing the Chakram to fly in a straight line, causing increased heat damage and ragdolling enemies. You can press 2 again while the Chakram is in flight to teleport to it. And there's a little bit of synergy with the Chakram and the 1 that we just went over, where if Nezha's 1 Firewalker is active when you teleport to your Chakram, Firewalker will explode for heat damage and leave a ring of Firewalker flames behind. There's also synergy with Chakram and Nezha's 4. However, our build is subsuming out Nezha's 4, so I'm not really too worried about explaining that one. Okay, so let's show Chakram here. Again, this could bounce to up to 6 enemies, but because it can hit the same enemy over and over, sometimes it will only be like 3 or 4 enemies, even if they're grouped like this. You'll see. Go ahead and throw it. Jump up in the air. I only see 3 enemies affected, even though there was a lot of dudes that could have been hit. Let me go ahead and throw it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enemies hit that time. So, you know, it's pretty good. You get the damage vulnerability and stuff. It just sometimes won't be hitting the maximum amount of dudes, because maybe a dude gets hit twice. The other thing is you can hold to cast it, like I said, so you can go like this. And that will cause it to go in a straight line forward and then back to you and cause some knockdown to enemies. And you can teleport to it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show that. And if I had Firewalker active, it would also kind of explode and leave a little Firewalker ring there as well. Okay, let's go over Nezha's 3 now. Warding Halo. You're going to summon a protective ring. You get immunity to status effects, 90% damage reduction to the ring's health pool. The ring is invulnerable for 3 seconds when first cast. Enemies close to Nezha will be staggered and receive slash damage per second. On expiring, it's going to explode to give a guaranteed heat status effect to enemies that are nearby, and also makes Nezha invulnerable for 2 seconds. Now, the health of the ring is modified by Nezha's armor, including armor gained from health conversion, and ability strength. When cast, there is a 3-second period where incoming damage will also multiply the ring's health pool. Okay, so I'm going to show this here. I'm going to press 3, and it's going to give me 26.9k health pool, basically, that has a 90% damage reduction. Now, this is not like Overguard. Some of that damage, that 10% that's not covered by that 90%, is going to come through and damage me. So it's still important to actually have a normal health pool on yourself as well. You still want a normal health pool because 10% of that damage is still going to be affecting me. And let me show this off here. Let me just turn on the AI. So you see that even though I have health left there, I'm still taking damage on my main health. It goes away. I'm going to recast it here. You're going to see it start multiplying now when I start taking damage. And now it's at 122,000 health. So, and, you know, as long as I have a good health pool, I'm pretty okay with taking that 10% damage through it. Okay, let's go ahead and shut these guys off. All right. Now, the 4 for Nezha is not Nezha's 4. We're actually using a subsume here. We're using Roar. Roar is just a multiplicative damage increase to both your weapons and also your abilities. So like the fire from Firewalker and the Chakram and stuff like that will also be affected by Roar. And that's just what it looks like. Kind of boring, but it's very powerful. And that's it. That's all of Nezha's abilities that we're using here. I'm going to go ahead and give a little wave to Salt so he knows we're done. Wow, great job, Other Salt. Great job. You truly have the voice of an angel. All right, let's go ahead and go into Nezha's build here. All right, and the first thing you may see is that I have gone ahead and removed Nezha's 4 and subsumed Roar over it. And you might say, oh my goodness, Salt, what are you doing? Casting Nezha's 4 and then using a Chakram and then teleporting with another Chakram while under the effect of the 1 and then letting the heat procs kill them is so good. And to that I'd say, yeah, it's pretty good. But also just pressing your left click while using any slightly above average weapon is sometimes better. So, you know, there's a extremely complicated thing that can sometimes maybe be as good as just pressing your left click with like your butt cheeks. You know, my goal is to provide efficient build, not to roleplay a Warframe. If you want to roleplay Nezha, you should go to your local party store, go get yourself a Sailor Moon costume, and do your thing, girl. Alrighty, let's go into the build here. We're going to start with 3 Umbral mods. Now, this is where there's an option to only use 2 Umbral mods and use one of the Archon mods here. So we have Umbral Vitality, Umbral Fiber, and Umbral Intensify. These are 3 things that Nezha wants. Nezha wants health, Nezha wants armor, and Nezha wants ability strength. And that's why I like the Umbral set. However, there is an option here to not use Umbral Vitality and instead use Archon Vitality. Now, if you take off Umbral Vitality, you lose about, I think it's 22 ability strength you'll lose. Because with the set bonus, it's increasing Umbral Intensify by, I believe it's 22 ability strength. So, you know, you don't just get to use Archon Vitality for free. You lose 22 ability strength for it, but in return, you gain the effect here where status effects from abilities that deal heat damage will be applied twice. So like things from your Chakram or from your Firewalker, those heat procs can be doubled. So that's up to you to make that decision. Do you value 22 ability strength more, or do you value double heat procs on your 1 and your 2 more? Personally, I value the ability strength, but it's close. I think the heat procs are also really good. So you can just make that decision on your own. Also, using Archon Vitality, another positive to using Archon Vitality is that if you notice with the 3 Umbrals here, I have to use 2 Umbral Forma to actually fit everything. If you were to use Archon Vitality instead of Umbral Vitality, I believe you would only have to use 1 Umbral Forma. So that's another positive to using Archon Vitality. So you can make that decision yourself there. Okay, next we have Health Conversion. Health Orbs grant 450 armor, stacking up 3 times. Taking damage will consume a stack after 3 seconds. So like Other Salt said in the Simulacrum, armor can affect, or does affect, how much health Warding Halo gets. And Health Conversion is a very easy way to get a gigantic amount of armor. This gives you 1,350 armor that can affect Warding Halo. You're also going to still want armor anyway, because 10% of the damage that comes through Warding Halo is still going to be affecting you. Okay. In the next few slots, we have a lot of ability strength mods, but there is another possible change here. So here I have Augur Secrets for plus 24% ability strength. And the change would be to use Equilibrium in this slot. I can't fit it here. I'd have to go down to a 4, rank 4 controlled slide. But it would be to use Equilibrium in this slot. Now, Nezha has a lot of things that combo with Equilibrium. You know, being able to spawn more health and energy orbs because of Blazing Chakram is really nice. And that combo is really nice with Equilibrium. Now, why am I not using it? It's because I have one purple shard that is like, it's the mini Equilibrium shard. Let me just show that real quick here. It's this one here. Health pickups give 30% energy, and energy pickups give 30% health. It's kind of like a miniature Equilibrium. Now, our build is actually not very energy hungry. If you went the crazy route where you were using Nezha's 4 and then spamming the 2 and then using the 1 and all that stuff, it's more of a spam build and you're very energy hungry. Our build isn't. Our build basically just sits on 3 buffs, and we cast 2 once in a while. That's it. So I feel like just a single purple shard, like the mini Equilibrium, is enough. I don't actually need Equilibrium. But if you didn't have a purple shard, because purple shards are harder to get, like they're the combined colors, you need to use Equilibrium. You would need to use Equilibrium here. So you either use Equilibrium over Augur Secrets or use a purple shard. Okay, next we have Transient Fortitude. This is going to be plus 55% ability strength, and unfortunately, minus 27.5% ability duration, but it's okay. Blind Rage is going to be plus 99% ability strength and minus 55% ability efficiency. Again, our build isn't really energy hungry. We just sit on 3 buffs. We sit on 1, our 3, and our 4, which are pretty long buffs. And we just cast our 2 anytime we see a big enemy that we want to apply vulnerability to. So like anything that is like Thrax level or higher, we're casting our 2 on. Or if we really just want to maybe top off on health or energy orbs. Because again, this can make more spawn. But we're not very energy hungry, so Blind Rage is fine. It's fine to use on our build. Narrow Minded is next. Plus 99% ability duration and minus 66% ability range. Another positive to our build by taking off the 4 is that nothing is affected by ability range. Well, nothing that really matters. There's some minor, like, miscellaneous stuff in these abilities that range kind of affects, but nothing major. So we don't really need range for anything. So we can dump range, we can dump efficiency, and we end up with a pretty good duration and a crazy ability strength. Okay. In the aura slot, there's 2 options. I was really going back and forth between these 2. I actually ended up putting an aura forma in here because I really wasn't sure which one I wanted to use. So I figured I'd throw an aura forma, that way I could switch back and forth between them. There's growing power, which is just going to be another 25% ability strength. Or there is, let me go into the aura here, corrosive, what is it called? Corrosive projection. Enemies lose minus 18% armor. Now, consider this. Nezha, you're applying a lot of these like little heat procs randomly to dudes around you, or dudes behind you, or dudes everywhere, because your firewalkers, you know, people are just going to be in them all over the place. So a lot of dudes are just going to have like random heat procs on them. Heat procs, when they tick down, act as a minor armor strip. Corrosive projection will further help that armor strip. And if you decide to go with a corrosive weapon itself, that's further going into armor strip. So like corrosive projection could be really nice, especially if you're picking a weapon that is corrosive. Because the corrosive on your weapon, mixed with enemies just getting some minor armor strips from heat procs, mixed with corrosive projection, you might be looking at damn near a full armor strip on a lot of dudes. So consider corrosive projection. I was really going back and forth between these 2. I actually put that aura former there so I could switch. Growing power is more of the boring one because it's just 25 ability strength when we already have 430. So you might want to go corrosive projection. Up to you. Make that decision yourself. Okie dokie. In the Exilus slot here, this is going to show that I'm not a Nezha main. It's controlled slide. I do the same thing on Zephyr because I don't technically main either one of those. I play them a lot, but I don't technically main either one. And they both have passives that change your movement. And because I don't play them a lot, when I do like switch to playing them, their benefit to movement actually messes me up because I'm not used to it. I'm used to to every Warframe sliding like they normally slide. So when I do a slide on Nezha, all of a sudden I'm flying around like crazy. Like I have like lube all over my knees and butt cheeks. And I can't control myself. Now, if you were a Nezha main, like you would be okay with that because you would like know all the time how Nezha moves. So controlled slide is kind of, this is my personal thing that I like. And it's because I don't like that it affects my movement, and 99% of Warframes don't move like this except for Nezha. This also gives you 15% ability strength. Ability strength is something that Nezha wants, and so this makes sense. The other thing, though, too, let me go into Exilus. If you did like Nezha's lubricant slide, you could just type in ability strength here, and power drift. You would just go power drift. So power drift is also 15% ability strength, and you would keep Nezha's slide. So that's up to you. That's up to you there. I personally like controlled slide, though. Okay, let's go over the arcanes. We're going to have Molt augmented for more ability strength. We're going to have Arcane Blessing for health. So Arcane Blessing, when it's fully stacked up from picking health orbs, is going to be, I think it's about 1,200 health. So for Steel Path Endurance, you really need to be at minimum 2,000 health. 2,000 to 2,500, you're golden. So right now, without Blessing, we're only at 1,300, which is not enough. There's a lot of things that do spike damage that will still like one-shot you, almost two-shot you here. So Arcane Blessing boosts us up to more of that safe range for a damage reduction build. Okie dokie, that is the build for Nezha. Again, consider using Archon Vitality if you would like. Consider using Equilibrium here if you don't intend to use a Purple Shard. And consider using Corrosive Projection instead of Growing Power, depending on what you like. Maybe you like Growing Power better. Maybe you like Corrosive Projection better. Oh, and then this one here too. Maybe you like having that lube on your butt cheeks and your knees to slide. Okay, let's go over the externals for Nezha here. Nezha is a Warframe that's actually pretty free for externals. You can pretty much pick whatever you want. I'm going to show you what I use, but you're kind of free for anything. The only thing you're not really free for is if you don't use Equilibrium, you really should be using a Purple Shard. Now, the other shards I went with, I just put more ability strength. I went with 4 red shards for more ability strength. Why not? It increases roar. Roar increases my damage. Pretty decent. Something I did take a little bit of time to think about here on the weapons is Nezha is a Warframe that you want to be mobile. You want to be running around, putting your Firewalker trail all over the place. And a lot of my builds, if you watch my channel before, a lot of my builds are like Galvanized Scope, like headshot builds. And headshot builds, a lot of times you spend a lot of time in aim down sights, ADS. You're not moving a lot because of that. They do a lot of damage, but you're not very mobile. And so I wanted to find a weapon that was not an ADS weapon, that was still very strong and kept me extremely mobile. And I had a lot of choices. I went back and forth between like different primaries, different secondaries, all kinds of stuff. And I ended up with the Icarius Prime. I love these things, especially on Nezha, because they're extremely mobile weapons. They have AoE, so you don't even need to aim great. And they're just great. I like them. Primary, I picked this because I thought it looked pretty on Nezha, and that was literally my entire justification on it. So don't worry about primary. But for the secondary, I thought the Icarius Prime is pretty good. For the melee, I went with the Praetos. The Praetos lets you move a little bit quicker, passively. Parkour velocity, which could be nice for you if you like it. It also keeps your combo at a higher than normal amount. So when you do whip out the Praetos, you're actually at an okay combo most of the time. So it's one of those melee weapons where even if you're not a melee focused build, if you whip it out, it's still pretty damn good. For the focus school, doesn't really matter. I'm going to go Xeneric just to give me a little bit more passive energy generation, but it doesn't really matter. You're pretty much open to use whatever you want here. And in the pet slot, I know I took him off. Let me put him back on here. I have my Panzer Vulpaphyla. Again, you can pick any pet. No pet is really like a super, super combo with Nezha. I think the Panzer is okay because Nezha leaves fire trails behind from his one. And Panzer Vulpaphyla will viral prime like things and it'll spread and it'll go all over the place. So a lot of times, like the dudes that are like kind of far away that are maybe taking heat ticks because of your Firewalker are also going to be taking viral ticks because of Panzer, which is just a nice combo. So I think Panzer's a good combo with Nezha, but it's not like a must. You can pick any pet really. So Nezha's pretty open to externals, whatever the hell you want. Make sure you are using one purple if you're not using Equilibrium, and try to pick either a primary or a secondary that's more mobile so you can get more value out of Firewalker. Alrighty, I think that is it for the build and the externals. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to showcase this in Steel Path Mott. I'm just going to show about 5 minutes, just show like basically how Nezha works. Solo, we'll do Mott here. Very easy gameplay style, though. You're just going to sit on 3 buffs, and you're going to cast 2 whenever there's a big enemy in front of you. Now, Mott doesn't have a lot of big enemies that come out, so I probably won't have to cast 2 too much. But if I need like health or energy orbs, I can cast 2 as well.
These are worthy foes. Underestimate them at your peril.
I press my 1 to get that buff going. I'm going to press my roar to get that going. And when I get enough energy, I will cast my 3. I probably should have cast my 3 first for status immunity so I don't knock myself over. And for survivability. There we go. Okay. Yeah, cast your 3 first. Don't do what I did. Cast your 3, and then when you get enough energy, cast your 1 and your 4. And I'm just pressing left click. Anytime I see a pack, I press left click. It kills everything. I could stay mobile with Firewalker. I'm going to recast Firewalker here. I'm going to recast my roar here in a second. Shaboop. This pack, press left click once. They're all dead. Left click, they're dead. Left click, they're dead. Now, the further you go on to Steel Path, the more you're going to have to lean on the dots a little bit further. But it's going to be much, much later. Like, most weapons are going to do pretty well until, like, level 4,000 or 5,000. Then you'll be leaning a little bit more on your dots. Then the efficacy of the 4, and then press 2 twice, and then 1 into them. Like, that becomes a little bit more useful because, you know, it's a little bit more dot focused. So pretty easy playstyle. Not very complicated. Also pretty strong. Let's get our Firewalker back up, our Roar back up. right, our Warding Halo fell off. Let's put it back on. Let's put our Roar back on. Let's put our Firewalker back on. They all last about the same time. Well, I guess Warding Halo doesn't really have a duration. It just has a HP pool. But Roar and Firewalker with our build just last 50 seconds each, which is kind of nice. They both fall off at the same time, so you can just replace them both at the same time. As you see, no energy issues whatsoever. And I only have the purple shard. If I felt like throwing a chakram, I could. I could throw a chakram here. I just threw it into the wall. I could throw a chakram here. It's kind of overkill, though, for the starting Steel Path enemies. So you want to throw it at, like, bigger dudes. Maybe this guy coming up here. Oh, Mania's got the Zephyr buff, doesn't he? He's dead anyway. Let's put Warding Halo back on. Let's put Roar back on. I don't have enough energy for Firewalk, but oh, now I do. Okay, that's back on. That's pretty much it. Very mobile. You don't really have to aim. Or, I mean, it depends on the weapon you pick, but you shouldn't pick a weapon that makes you stationary. You want to pick a weapon you can hip fire with Nezha. That way you get more value out of Firewalker, leaving trails behind. All right, we're at 5 minutes here. Let's go ahead. Head to Extraction. That's the basic gameplay loop of Nezha. You're keeping 3 buffs up. Anything that's like thorax size or higher, you probably want to throw a chakram at so you get damage vulnerability on them. Or if you just need some extra health or energy orbs, you can throw a chakram too, because it's going to cause them to possibly drop some more. So very easy play style, very powerful Warframe. Makes a very good gun frame. The ability setup for Nezha is, it's good. Like, you could still do like the 4 into the 2 into the 1, or while having 1 up, but it requires augments. It requires you to go more into range. And so, you know, you don't just get to do that for free. There's always going to be trade-offs with it. But that setup would be, like, it would start getting good later into the game where dots are a little bit more powerful. So that is the build for Nezha Prime. I hope you guys liked it. If you liked the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing, or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.